and welcome to Mark No Horsemanship. Here we are with Ruby, almost 2-year-old. She'll be 2 years old in February of next month, February 2nd actually, so pretty close to 2. Ruby is a red roan little quarter horse filly. Not quite sure her breeding. I can get her papers, but it's not important to me really. She's just here to be. Not really, well, she's here to be started, but before I get to comments on she's too young, I'd just like to add to the fact that I'm not going to be out here, checking cattle on her or whatever, and I may not even ride her. It just depends on how good it goes, and if I do choose to ride her, it'll be 4 or 5 times just to get her ridden, basically. So I just want to let everybody know that right off the bat. So. But today, what we're going to start with, Ruby is fresh out of the field. She just got here the day before yesterday, and she's been handled and haltered and led, but not very much. What I'm going to do is I notice she's always in your hip pocket, so I'm going to work on that first, and then we're going to do a little bit of directing and driving, which a lot of people call lunging, and pretty much let that be a video today. So just wanted to mainly show y'all what I had new in the barn. She's a new customer, new horse, and where we was going with her. So I'm just going to lead her around here, and this is how I like to teach horses that are kind of in your hip pocket. She's not bad right now, but usually she is, just to kind of respect my space a little bit and stay back there where she should be, instead of just scrouching on top of me all the time and being like right there. She wants to lean forward, kind of lean into me a little bit. She just needs to learn to stay back there on her own. And a lot of times it's a safety thing, or how can I say it? You're kind of her pacifier. You're kind of her safety zone. But I don't like it because it can turn into lack of respect, or disrespect, I should say. And so I just like to keep them back off of me. There's always time and room and a lot of things you can do to love on them and teach them that they can be next to you as well. But there's a fine line between that and where she's at now. So I just like to let them stand there. Now, I would also like to add that what I'm doing now is more important than what I just did. By letting her soak and think on it, letting it absorb into her mind. So that was a big deep breath that y'all probably couldn't hear, but I did. So we're going to go on with it here and do it one more time. And I don't like to aggravate them with it or do too much of it, but as long as they know their place. And some would say, well, that's dominating, that's rude, or that's primitive. Well, you can sort of call it what you want to, but I, for one, am not afraid to use the word dominate. I skipped around using that word for years because it seemed to not sit well with people, but there ain't, no offense to anyone that's got a pretty good mind out there, you're not included in on this when I say this, but what don't offend people these days? So I'm over trying to not offend people, and when it comes to terminology, so that's what I'm trying to do, is dominate these horses. You have to be the alpha, and they have to be the, whatever the opposite of alpha is. Sorry, lost that one. But the weaker one. They have to be the weaker one, and you have to be the stronger one, the leader. And by doing that, you have to dominate. So we'll let that kind of soak in on her right there for a moment. Let that be all that we do for now. Now the next thing I like to do is I like to keep these first few days pretty simple. Let them get adjusted. Let them get used to being away from their normal place that they are. And I don't like to rush things. So we're just going to get in here and get her to directing and driving a little bit. And I know she's small, and like I say, it just depends on how this goes, whether or not I take a few first rides or not, but we'll just see. If I did, it's not going to hurt her. But right here, we're just going to present her to go to the left. Didn't mean to do that, but present her to go to the left and get her to move that shoulder, and and then move that hip out, just like right there. You know, she just don't understand. That's the reason she stood there and she was all jerky and carrying on. But I see so many people stopping right there and saying, oh, I didn't mean to scare you or didn't mean to offend you. Hey, just keep rolling with it. They'll be all right. You're not going to scar their mind. So right here, we're just going to get her to moving her feet. The other day, I lunged her a little bit yesterday. And she's just so humanized, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but she's so humanized that not much you do matters. So I've got to make a believer out of her right now. It all starts right now. And even if I have to kind of flop her with that rope a little bit and let her know she needs to go forward, before it gets any much further, too much further. So we yield these hindquarters here. Send her out to the right. Of course, she's confused, and I understand that. But the only way she's going to know is if I teach her. So just move her around right here. Now, why would a person like me and my method and my technique, why would I spend time doing this with a filly this quiet? Because she is pretty quiet for her age and no more hands-on than she's had. Why would I not just go ahead and start throwing the saddle on her and just get her moving right along? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's too quick. I believe in breaking this down. She needs to learn to move those feet freely first. You can see how stuck she is and sticky that she is. I really like to get them moving freely and do 4 or 5, 6 days of some good just groundwork. And in the middle of that, I'll be tossing the saddle pad on her, this rope, and getting her used to things going across her back. I see so many people with quiet horses like this, they just go ahead and saddle them, let them buck it out, and they ride them. And man, there is so many things that's missing. So I like to teach it in steps, and along the way of doing them steps, I might run into an obstacle that looks like it needs to be addressed, just like her staying back. You know, I don't want her right up here on me. Always bumping into me, and I can't even turn my old big hat around without bumping her in the face. I don't care for that. So she's learning her place. You notice she stands back there now. And that's why I like to do this, because they need to learn all these things. In my humblest opinion, they need to learn all these things before you go to strapping leather on them and throwing your leg across them. Hey, if that's the way you choose to do it, that's fine. But let me do it my way. You know, I get so many comments on, oh, just go ahead and ride her there, cowboy. Just go ahead and get on her. Well, listen, you do it your way, and these videos are to educate you on how I do things. Now, it don't make it the only way, and it don't make it the absolute correct way. I'm just sharing with you what works for me, and that's what I like to do. So we'll just keep on working her here, get this shoulder to move over. Even if I have to pop her with it, it's not going to hurt her, but she needs to know to move those feet. Do something. Don't just stand there. And if you do something wrong, I'll correct you, but do something. So let's see if we can really get her. There we go. Really get her moving those feet. She's going to be a nice little filly. A nice mare one of these days. She's going to have a good build to her. I personally like the way she's built. She's a little short necked and long back, but that's okay by me. I like these little punchy, ranchy looking horses. I'd like to have her as a personal project, but she's not mine, and I'll just have to. I've had a bunch of them that I wish were mine, not meaning to covet or anything like that, but I have had quite a few in my program over the last 28 to 30 years that I really, really hated to see. Good girl. That I really, really hated to see go home. You know, you kind of end up really liking these things, falling in love with them. Right here, she just keeps crouching up on me. I don't mind to get her back. I'm not going to scar her mind. She needs to know her place in life, and her place is back away from the person that's holding her. I don't mind to come in here and really back her up right there and teach her not to be on top of me. Now, how did she get this way? Well, she got this way from being allowed to do it. Pretty simple. But now I'm going to teach her how that she's not allowed to do it. And unfortunately, sometimes I have to do that. And that's okay. It ain't the end of the world. So we're going to keep this short and sweet today and move her out a little bit more here. And see, look how much better she's stepping out there. That's good. I like it. So these little short sessions, a lot of people think, well, you're not, or may think, I ain't never had nobody really say this, but someone may think, well, you're not giving the owner their money's worth, or the owner, not this particular owner, but there might be an owner out there that might say, well, you're not giving me my money's worth. But these little short sessions with these young horses, man, they go a long ways, especially if they have an impact, if they have some good learning behind them, good sessions. It ain't how long you work a horse, and it's really not how many times a week you work a horse. It's the quality of the session that matters the most. You can get a lot done in one session and get a whole lot of stuff done wrong in 5 sessions and really hurt that horse worse. When you could do 3 sessions a week with a good impact on them, and everything, and get a whole lot further ahead than you would working them 6 days a week and not putting a good impression on them. So good quality sessions, short and sweet, especially on these younger horses, have always worked better for me. So right here, we're just going to move her out this way. Right there, she really needs to learn not to be so sticky. When I say go, I mean go. And that's kind of what you get sometimes with horses that may have been handled too much. I'm not saying she has. I'm just saying that as an example. Or a horse that it may be her nature. It may just be her personality. And if so, then I want to nip it in the bud now. You can see her. She's got a little sauce to her there. And that's okay. She's a gentle mare. Most of the time, now here this is important. I just run across something that I think I could help people with. Talking about moving these horses around and stuff. See, sometimes you have to really put forth a lot of effort into getting them to move their feet before you really see their true personality. Let's go on the flip side to that. Let's just say I brought her out here and she was nice and she was gentle and you could touch her and you could rub all over her, lead her around, you could flop stuff on her back, and you went ahead and saddled her and started riding her. Well, that little bit of sauce that you just seen out of her, the reason I'm getting that out of her is because she's probably got a little bit of natural resistance to her, and she's got a whole lot, maybe a little bit of laziness to her. That don't mean she's a good horse, bad horse. It just means that's her personality. So by me working with her and pushing her a little bit harder every day, I'll bring that real personality out in her to where I can fix it. Most people overlook it, and then it happens a month or 2 down the road when you're riding. It all comes out, that that personality that they have, the true personality comes out. See, I'm going to try to get that personality out of her right here before I get that far along. And that just makes more sense to me. And that's the way I've did this for quite a few years now, and it's always worked. A lot of people think I'm just killing time and taking my time, and they may think that. I've really never had too many people. I've had a couple complain that I was going a little bit slow, but most of the time people respect my approach because of the end result. You get a whole lot better, calmer, more solid horse. My wife is a walking testimony to the horses that she rode growing up her whole life that did not have a foundation on them. Sure, you could ride them, and most of the time you got from there back to here safely, or somewhat, or you come back in one piece anyway. But she can testify to the horses that she rode that didn't have this kind of foundation on them, and they were always kind of sketchy. You always didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to do because she wasn't taught. She thought that was normal. And then she started dating me and seeing the horses that I started, and she was like, man, I wished I would have been able to be around horses like this up till now. So there's a lot to be said for this approach and this method. I'll never quit using it. I've tried to go the faster route or the more cowboy route or the more macho route and try to prove something to myself or other people, and it don't work. The end result, your horse ain't trained right. It's not got a very good mind. So So that's where I'm at on that. So let's get her moving her feet again a little bit, like right there. She really needs to move them feet. I'm going to go ahead and address this right from the get-go, because I picked up on the fact that she's going to just bow up and say, I'm not moving, you know, or I'm not going out of the trot. Forward, forward, forward. Let's get her moving them feet. Got to get her moving them feet. Right here, we'll really push her to her limit of showing that attitude. I want her to show that attitude. Now see there, she get a little bit of like saying, hey, don't push me to that point. I'm going to say, hey, you can get an attitude if you want to, but you're going to move them feet. Right here, see there, you got a kick out right there. See, that's what I'm saying. Now, I don't necessarily correct her right there. It's too late to correct her now anyway. What I do is just be more. See right there, I'll correct that. See how this quiet filly started really coming out of her nutshell when I asked her to work. So that's why you don't just strap a saddle on them and start riding. So right here, we're going to yield that hind quarter. Yield that hind quarter. Move them feet this way. Don't be afraid to offend them. It ain't going to hurt them to get offended. Get her moving them feet right there. There we go. She'll submit. Now, this is where it'd be a good opportunity to give her a break, and myself. It's been a long winter and I'm out of shape. So, why did she retaliate? Well, she's lazy. All horses are. Don't be offended by that if someone tells you that about your horse. That's their nature. To stand under a shade tree all day while it's hot, conserve energy, and go out at night and eat grass. Why do they do that? Why are they lazy by nature? Well, I mentioned it in the video of Valentine earlier. They do that so they can conserve that energy that they may have to get away from a predator. It's all about survival. Did I get offended just now when she kicked out? Sure, I did. You know, my instinct was to really go in there and rip her a new one, so to speak. But I missed it. It was too late. But I shouldn't get offended, because all she's doing is being a horse. What you got to do is be more persistent and more consistent and show her that that don't work and that she's still going to work. That what she did doesn't go over well, doesn't work, and you're still just going to be more persistent about making her work. So right here, we'll just get her moving her feet again. Look how much snappier she's getting. I don't mind to flop her on the butt with that rope. It's not hurting her. Oh, I'm sure it's got a little sting to it. But it's not like you being hit with it. It really stings you for me. So now look there. Now all I got to do is throw that rope at her a little bit, and she'll go on. Now when I get that a little bit better, then I'll start thinking about putting a little pressure around her girth line and teaching her to give to that, you know, for the girth and things like that, getting used to constriction. So right here, we'll yield them hindquarters, move them feet. That's pretty good. Now the reason why that most people don't put this much effort into it, because I just said it, it's a lot of effort. I'm working just as hard as she is. And it boils down to people just don't want to put. You got two natures here. You got one that's lazy, and most of the time the other one here that's a little bit lazy too. So people just don't want to put this much effort into it. If people start getting sweaty or winded, they want to quit most of the time. But it keeps me in shape, and I don't mind it. I probably walked from Virginia, where I live, to California and back in this little circle right here. So she just needs to learn her place, and we'll continue with this, and let her learn to adjust. I'm in no hurry. She's a young horse. The owner is not in a hurry. He's agreed to take as much time as it takes. We're going to do these. He's got a bunch of these. He's got 3 or 4 more, I think, maybe 2 more young horses, and we're just going to do them in increments. We're going to we're going to work on them for a month or a month and a half, take them home, let them have a break, bring them back 3 or 4 months later, and I've reassured him that makes a better horse. So there's Ruby, the first session with her. Not going to do much more past here. She just, like I said, she's just a dumb filly right now. She don't know how, she's not really acquainted to this human life, so to speak. And we're just going to continue on with her. Thank you for watching, and God bless.